5, 4, 3. CGP Video Pictures presents Trek Tonight Season 2. This week, Strange New Worlds. With your hosts, Christopher Pitcher, Leo Byrne-Janicek, and Keith Jacobson. Tonight's review, Among the Lotus Eaters. Now live from New York City, Wilmington, Delaware, and Everett, Washington, it's Trek Tonight. Hey there, Trekkers, and welcome once again to another episode of Trek Tonight. Tonight we are looking at, what is this, episode 4, I think, right? Of Strange New World, season 2. For those of you who have not watched it, there will be spoilers. So you may want to go back, watch the episode, and then come back and see us in the playback. But for those of you who either stayed up till 2:15 in the morning to watch it or saw it this morning, you are all welcome. Hey guys, how you doing?
I'm doing great.
I'm still here. It is just the beginning of July in New York, but it already feels like deep in the heart of August.
Yeah, it's pretty hot. I'm up in Northwest Connecticut, which is typically a little cooler, but it was still hot and muggy, and then it rained, and it just made it worse somehow. It was just like more humid than it was before it rained, so I don't really get that, but anyway.
And here in the Pacific Northwest, it's in the low 80s, which, causes everybody here, which is hot for us. It's like, when it... So, yeah, we're all cranky here. We're waiting for our 70-degree and cloudy weather to return.
Well, guys. I'm going to jump in right away and say I loved this episode. I know I always say to you guys first impressions, but I know we had to deal with the issue with Una and all of that business, but boy, if this had been the first episode, I would have been so jazzed for the whole season after this that, I don't know, felt very classic Star Trek to me. I love the revisiting Rigel. I love the little note in there about Spock getting injured because, I feel like this all plays back to the original pilot. But I don't know. What about you guys?
Yeah, if Mikey, they did touch on stuff from the cage because Leonard Nimoy, I think, had hurt his leg, which is why, not related to the show, which is why he was limping. Either that, maybe I'm misremembering.
Well, I heard that they actually told him to do that because a lot of people thought that. A lot of people thought Nimoy was injured, but it wasn't. It was because if you notice in the cage, some guys have their hands wrapped.
Yeah, that's true. They're just fresh from a tussle on Rigel 7, where he lost 3 people as they bring back this week. I thought it was a wonderful callback to it. It was a very classic Trek episode, and it was a neat way of sort of following up on something which was effectively like a little bit of background business from the original pilot. It certainly wasn't the crux of the story. It was just something that they put in for texture or a little character background, but beautifully done.
How about you, Keith?
I think I have much the same reaction. It was very classic Trek, right down to the ending where we sort of bend the Prime Directive, if not actually break it outright. It's Kirk would be proud. What could I say? Maybe Kirk learned it from Pike, because
maybe.
At this point, the Prime Directive should really be the Prime Suggestion.
Yes,
because they don't set out to interfere, but a lot of times they're like, well, there was already contamination, so we're just trying to fix it, sort of thing. it's interesting because it is, I think, a debate amongst fans as to the nature of the Prime Directive, because strictly speaking, everything that Pike has done, like that, has bent or broken the rules. The same with Robert April, as we found out in Una's trial.
Right.
They would be going through captains left and right if they were really that strict about enforcing the Prime Directive. So, like I said, it's more the Prime suggestion.
Yes.
Try not.
Hey, Angela dropped in. She's sending us oh, I see. All right. Now, that's funny. On my little sidebar that shows all the comments, it came across as a black heart, but here it's a white heart. So I was trying to figure out what it
looks red on my
screen. It's a red. On my screen, it's a red heart.
Oh, see, I have it as white. Isn't that interesting? And Craig Lubin gives us a Vulcan salute, and then indicates that New York City feels like a sweaty sock that smells of urine and something unknowable, just like I remember.
Maybe you need to take a trip to Rigel 7 there, Craig.
I'd like to forget this weather.
Yeah. And another boon for me was this episode was delightfully Pale-free. So
I know you're not a friend of our new chief engineer, but what was sort of to get a little bit, because they go back because there was a contamination when they left 3 people were killed in action, and apparently something happened because there's an overhead shot of a castle with the sort of the Starfleet symbol. They're like, well, something's going on. Right. They may have, they weren't really, as they found out, it was like we were trying to escape with their lives. We weren't really counting gear. Some gear gets left behind, as we find out. And the whole premise is there's something, we find out the radiation in this planet from a meteoroid or asteroid that crashed. They see that on their approach with the shuttlecraft. Emits a radiation which messes with your mind. At first you get like tinnitus, and then like a headache, and then you have lost time, and you get fearful and angry, and then you forget who you are. Like, although you remember like how to walk and talk and do sort of basic stuff, but as Nurse Chapel says later, says like I can treat a minor injury, and I've done it thousands of times, but with this I wouldn't know that I could do it or that I should.
Right.
So it affects them on the planet, and they find out that one of the people killed, that was presumed killed in action, a yeoman by the name of Zach, was not. He was left behind, sort of accidentally, clearly, because Pike seems very delighted to see him when he finally gets dragged in front of him, and secondly, is genuinely upset that he was left there, but he's become High Lord Zacharias, and they throw him in a cage, which is maybe a nod to the original series, the original pilot.
I didn't catch that.
And they have the forgetting, because you sort of fall asleep and then you forget all your stuff. Like you don't remember your name, what you're doing there, and but it's also happening up on the Enterprise. Or her is the first one to go. There's the cage.
There they are in the cage. Yep.
So it's
before you get too deep.
Yeah, I know I'm going a little too deep in, but
yeah. One of the things I loved about this was it was definitely an Ortega episode, even though it was not about her as far as the plot was concerned. It was definitely, I mean, all the logs, if you notice, were hers.
Right.
It starts with that scene where she's all excited because she thinks and we'd seen this.
This dropped a few months ago. Yeah.
Yeah, but she's all excited that she's going to get to go on the landing party, and then it turns out, well, there's this huge asteroid problem around the planet. To keep the ship, in a regular orbit, they need a really good pilot. And she tries. She says, "Well, who's going to pilot the shuttle?" And of course Pike says he is. But I love the fact that there was a lot with Ortega's, and the thing of it is she's just adorable. Like, it occurred to me in some ways. I mean, this didn't appeal to us, I think, so much as young teenagers or whatever. But she kind of fills a little bit of the cute character like Chekhov did. Do you guys see what I'm saying a little bit? Like she's young and she's spunky and she's got a lot of energy. And she's just adorable. I don't know. I really love her.
I quite like it, and I like that she got featured. I still want more Ortegas because I feel like we're owed another Ortegas episode.
Right.
She was very psyched to go down. She got the hat, and even Lon started giving her side eye, like, "You're wearing the hat." She's like, "Of course."
There's a lot of humor about people wearing hats. Do you remember when Mabenga wore a hat last season and people were giving him shit about it?
Yeah.
He wore his fishing hat and he was getting crap about that. Yeah.
But
I felt sorry for Ortegas when she didn't get to go down on the landing party.
No, I did too, because, and Spock is like, "I'm sorry, but it would be illogical." She's like, "Spock, learn when people want to be left alone." Because I am trying.
Yeah.
They have a lot of nice interactions.
And also an interesting note, which ties into not last week's episode, but the week before. The reason that Pike brings Mabenga is not because he's a doctor, but because he's proficient in combat.
Yeah, he's
and he knows all of them. Yeah, he's bringing down the two officers that he knows can kick butt.
Without phasers.
And because
they're not bringing down phasers or any of their gear, since that's how things went sideways last time.
Yeah. I
love when he pulls out the appropriate equipment, and it's a little telescope, and she's like, "Are you serious?"
Yeah. I did love the telescope and the sort of, it looked like a compass that Dr. Mbenga had.
Right.
And presumably Ortegas can also handle herself in a fight. Otherwise, I don't think he would have chosen her.
We know she can, because you remember in the very first episode of season 1, she takes down those two guards when they beam down to the planet, and they're trying to infiltrate where they think where they think Una is. So we know she can handle herself without a phaser.
So I like her character quite a bit. I still want more background, a little bit better, a little more about her.
Right.
But she got to be featured. It was more of a B plot, but she was she got to sort of have her a lot of interesting moments.
Yeah, I mean, she's basically the open and almost the close, except for the business between Pike and her name.
Captain Battelle, whose first name we have yet to learn. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit.
There's a wonderful scene where they're assisting each other. The two ships, her ship, the Kyoga, and the Enterprise, are surveying a binary star system, and they're going to take a little bit of time to have dinner and maybe fool around. Who knows? They don't say that, but and they keep being interrupted. There's calls. They're like, "Captain Pike, I just wanted to know that we've established these rotations." He's like, "Okay, but next half hour, unless it's a red alert, I don't want to hear it."
Yeah.
And she gets a call about a course correction from her own ship. She's like, "Yeah, no, I'm not going to take that call." But then she does take a call from an admiral. Because she's up for a promotion to Commodore.
Well, it's interesting because actually she's waiting for that call because when her ship contacts her, she says, "Is it from the Admiral?"
Yes.
And they know it's about a course correction, and she goes, "Okay, fine."
But she gives Pike a medallion from the planet Galt, which is supposed to bring lost sailors home. Now, Galt is also where Worf grew up, I think, with the Rozhenkos. If you, so, but he's very touched. Like, are we doing presidents? She's like, well, you're making dinner, And also, she's like, is that your mom? Is that your mom's sauce? Because he's making a red sauce. He's like, anything else would be an insult to tomatoes. Captain's booty call.
Captain's booty call in space.
Yes. So, turns out she doesn't get the promotion, and she thinks it's Admiral, the Vulcan admiral from the court martial, who was really had a big hard on to get Una and Pike.
Right.
So, and then he immediately he was like, I don't know, is this like I'm hurting your career? We barely get to see each other. And she's just like, she's like, difficult because it's difficult. Well, difficult is not the same as impossible.
Right.
And he's sort of doing that thing. And she's like, she's sort of like had a day. And she does it, rather than just being able to just enjoy this lovely meal and maybe have a bit of the old wabu wabu, as we used to say. She's just like, all right, listen.
Well, and the point is what she wants from him at that point, because she's disappointed about not making the rise in rank, is she just really wants his sympathy. She doesn't want him to sit there and make it a whole big effing deal. So, because she says, boy, your timing is really great,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, she goes, well, I'll see you when I see you, which is like,
yeah. I'll see you when I see you, Captain.
Yeah, that was I'm like, and then later on we find out that
damn, it just got cold in here.
Yeah, right, exactly.
That number one, she's like, did you do that thing? She says, what thing? Is that thing where you pull away when people start to get close and others? And he says, I don't do that. She says, I do that. He says, you do that. And it was nice to see that sort of that their friendship on that she's able to be like, listen, I love you. She's like, I like her. She's, well, I liked her too. He says, yeah, but I like her for you. I think, basically, and he's just like, and they're off to Rigel 7, and the idea like he's they're looking at the screen with the three killed in action, including the yeoman Zach, who as it turns out, not so dead, and was I guess I like the person
outfit with the little crown,
with the crown and the
outfit was great.
Yeah, that's not pretentious at all.
Yeah, no, I thought it was great.
They shot that in a church in Ontario. They dressed it because I'm like, that's a pretty impressive set, and I was wondering if it was done like with the green screen the way they did like the outside, but they didn't. That was they dressed an actual cathedral, not a cathedral. Let's call it a church or a chapel.
Yeah.
And I thought that was neat.
The only thing that would have been kind of cool would have been if the exterior shot of the palace mimicked that famous exterior.
They kind of do. If you look closely, you'll see some of these gold domes. Looks like it had been built up. And it is. They could have done it exactly the same, and I'm kind of glad they didn't do it exactly the same because, it shows that there'd been some progress since they last visited. So, I mean,
and that's an interesting point. What do you guys think about this? Because as we learn later on in the episode, the palace is built out of an ore that protects them from the radiation. So, that just a happenstance? Was that just a, or was there something to that?
Well, I mean,
I have a headcanon on that.
Okay.
So, as we later find out, there are pillars in everybody's hut who is not protected by that gives this legend that there are what are the name of the inhabitants again?
Field. What?
Yeah, the post over there on the left side of that
screen.
It basically it basically tells a story that you got field guys and you got leaders. The leaders are the only ones who get to keep their memories.
And also the helmets, I think, were made of the same ore.
Right.
Yeah.
So my theory is that there has always been a leader class on that planet, at least ever since the meteor struck.
Yeah.
There's been a leader class on that planet that just happened to, probably make helmets out of this material at first.
I mean, the thing is that since it happened like thousands of years ago, they said,
right.
Presumably the forgetting thing has been going on for a while.
Right.
And, somebody was like, hey, when I'm in this cave with this metal on it, I don't lose my memories. Right. It's like, I was like, how did anybody invent cheese? I mean, that's bananas. Like, there's so many stuff that we have. And I'm like, who thought to do that? Who thought it'd be like, let's take some milk that's gone bad and it's gone a bit solid. Hey, that's pretty good. Like, if I had to come up with it, I love cheese. I couldn't come up with it.
Yeah.
So anyway, excuse me, I have to make a quick trip.
Sure.
Oh, that's
fine. My theory is that that it's been going that way for a long time now. And it just so happened that when Zach showed up with his phasers and his advanced weaponry, he was able to become leader of the ruling class.
Right.
So it's been that way.
Saying basically, Keith, that you think it was just happenstance that the palace was built out of that ore, or as Leo's suggesting, that over those thousands of years somebody discovered it.
What I'm saying is somebody discovered it over those 1,000 years. Probably they made a helmet, or like Leo said, there was a cave and they discovered it. Then they started making helmets out of it. Then they started making, hey, this would make a good building material. And hey, you know what? While we sleep in here, we could convince these other guys out here to do our stuff for us. And so that's what I think happened.
Right. Gotcha. Okay. Cool.
And then Zach just took advantage of it because he had phasers and nobody else did.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm wondering who the king was he deposed.
I don't know, man. It's funny because it is slightly different. You remember the flashback that the Telosians gave Pike.
Yes.
Being on Rigel 7, the guy he was fighting seemed more like a boar man. Like he had fangs and he was like this big brute. And
not to mention, he was huge. He was tall.
Yeah, they got a big actor. I mean, Jeffrey Hunter's probably is not a squirt, but this guy was like a big, 6 foot plus dude, probably maybe 6.5 feet. I don't know. I'm just guessing. But remember the castle they were fighting, the fort. It was sort of abandoned. There were like broken weapons and stuff lying around. It had this sort of deserted quality because it's cheaper to hire one big actor than, I guess, a bunch of regular size actors.
John Van Gogh.
No one can remember. Yep.
No one can remember.
Well spotted, John. Well spotted. That answer was right. As my mom used to say, if that was a snake, it would have bit you.
Right.
So, but yeah, it is much like a lot of the stuff we're seeing that is callbacks to TOS era stuff. It all has a bit of a polish to it. It's less backlogging.
Penicillin was discovered in a bunch of rotting bacteria in a petri dish. So.
Yeah, it's like all this stuff is like somebody had the idea to be like, I know that looks disgusting, but what if? Which is why I'm doing this show and not, changing the world. So, yeah, I'm enjoying it. I love the polish on the old stuff. I mean, I still love the old stuff. That was the first Trek, and despite the fact that everything was made out of plywood and lucite, I still was like, I bought it. Like I was never like, that doesn't look like a spaceship. I was totally.
Well, I mean, okay, so I had this picture for later on when Ortegas is trying to remember how to fly the ship, and she realizes she's the pilot. She learns that from the computer, and she and Spock are the lone ones on the bridge. But I mean, look at that. That's just awesome.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I really do think that if this technology had been available back in 1966, that this is what we would have seen.
I'm sure.
I mean, it's just really cool. It's a great ship.
It is, and I loved that. People started like also that. Uhura was the first one on the ship to report like this gap of memory, because number one's like, she's like, oh yeah, let me send that update to Starfleet, and she's like, I asked you to do that 2 hours ago. She's like, you did? She's like, yes. He was like, did I do it? He's like, yes. And I think you should go to sick bay. Ortegas takes her down. And at first Ortega's sort of busting her chops, saying like, oh, that's what happens when you stay up translating Tellarite sonnets and not getting some shut up.
Right.
I'd be very curious to what Tellarite sonnets sound like.
Me too. Somebody needs to write a Tellarite sonnet.
There you go.
There you
go. Someone in the audience, get to it. Yeah. Although you could add it to your haikus, Leo.
I could maybe. I'll have to do a little research on the sonnet, the structure of a sonnet, the rhyme scheme, or the meter, I should say.
Hey, you know what else I liked, which felt very Trek? This actor who plays the guy that helps them.
Yeah.
There was something about him that brought me back to characters, guest star characters, like the old guy that helps them in the Archons.
Yeah.
And things. It felt like that kind of casting to me.
If I'd been a little more
in to play some character of the week.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed him. I liked him a lot.
I liked him a lot too. I should have looked him up because I was like, because I was reading. Apparently, he's done like a lot of stuff. So I'm assuming he's done a lot of TV, probably film, theater. So he's like one of these guys. He's like a character actor. Yeah, he brought a lot to the thing. He's the one who sort of takes our three heroes in and sort of looks after them. And the forgetting will be easier. The idea, he says, and they also have like these tattoos on them. So they, this sort of like with a memento, move of tattooing stuff on their arms. Like he said, well, that symbol, I know that symbol, that's on me. So that's my hut because it's got the same symbol, because they even that is beyond, or is destroyed by their, this radiation. Right. But he also says you have to trust your emotions. And there's like when they try to escape and they kill a couple of guards or they knock out a couple of guards, and La'an gets wounded, and the doctor says, "I know, like I can try to help her, but I can't really remember how." And the old man is like, let's let her like expire peacefully, rather. And she's like, "Stop saying I'm going to expire. I'm not dead."
I love
yet.
that. Yeah.
Bring out your dead.
Yeah.
Bring out your dead. Not dead yet.
Yeah. But the idea that when Pike said we have to go and try it, because the idea that everybody's memories are kept in a casket in the castle. And he said, well, we have to go get it then. And the guy's like, well, I'll help you. And they were like, are you sure? Because it seems like, he said, well, you clearly feel it's your emotions. You got to follow your emotions. You may lose your memories, but, your strong emotions are what guide you. Yeah. And which I thought was kind of a really interesting sort of take. He
was a very interesting character, actually. He really was. For just sort of a, like I say, a guest star of the week, they put a lot into his character, I thought.
And that's kind of an interesting take of trust your emotions, because Spock was not on the landing party.
No. Right. Well, even Ortega's lately, towards the end, she's like, I feel like this is right. And he says, emotions are not like facts. And she's like, no, I need, like she comes after she has her thing. She runs off the bridge after she's sort of like her memory lost, and she's like accusing Bob. Like, I remember being mad at you or something. He's like, maybe this is your fault. And she gets on the turbo lift and they're like destination, and she's like, I'm home, and it brings her. She's like, she's wearing, and then the computer guides her to her room, and she says, well, this feels right. There's a model of the Enterprise and also what is called a Walker class ship, which is the same as the Shenzhou from Discovery, which was sadly destroyed.
Well, that's an interesting segue because Craig Lubin commented the scene where Ortegas is guided by the computer via the light path was something first introduced in the pilot of Star Trek: The Next Generation encounter in Farpoint.
Yeah, it is.
Which is a good memory, Craig, because I so don't like that episode that I've very rarely.
It's not the best episode of TNG, but they did have that in there. And it's interesting because much like somebody who's like losing their memory, everything is overwhelming. And she's like, because the asteroids keep hitting the Enterprise, and she's like,
make it stop.
The boys, like, make it stop. She's like, I cannot comply. And the whole thing is she finds out that she's, well, do you wish to plot a course? She's like, no, I know that. That sounds
that triggers a memory. Didn't you think, just jumping back a tiny bit, I thought it was really creepy in a way when she first comes off the turbo lift and she's in the corridor and there's just people sitting on the floor.
Oh, yeah.
Nurse Apple walks up like a zombie almost, just sort of looking at her and then walks away. It's like everybody is lost. And I really thought to myself at that point, how the F are they going to get out of this? Because if none of them can remember anything, the ship's going to get destroyed. I mean, it was a really interesting...
It was.
And then, really kind of creepy, I thought.
It was, and she's freaking out in her quarters, and they're applying the course. That's the thing that sort of brings her out. And she's like, "How do you know who I am?" There's you are Lieutenant Erica Ortegas. You are the ship's pilot. And she's like, "I'm Erica Ortegas. I pilot the ship." And she just keeps saying that to herself over and over again. She goes back to the bridge,
right?
And sort of like whether it's a combination of muscle memory or like stuff starts becoming familiar. Like, again, you remember like the things that she didn't know she could chart a course. It never occurred to her with the memory wipe. But once she's like, knows like, oh, chart a course, I know what that is.
Yeah.
And she does some very fancy flying, and Spock is setting it navigation, and they're heading towards like a huge asteroid. And he says, I think it would be advisable to
avoid that. Yeah.
To avoid that. She's like, we're gonna thread the needle. And she does this super cool move where she spins the Enterprise, fires the phaser banks, and cuts a hole through the middle of the thing and shoots right through it. And you even see like the shield sort of flickering when like debris is hitting it.
Very, very cool moment. Yeah.
Very cool moment. I like the little exchanges between them.
Yeah.
In this, because even Spock, who gave everybody basically a pad with their service record and their photo on it, but apparently they forget how to read too.
Yeah.
Because he says, I know this is supposed to be important, but I don't know how to read it, which seems a little convenient. Just because they said, like,
you
the
know
stuff
what, you could have just had them forget to look at it.
Yeah.
Forget that they got it. But
like, if you just left on the, like it fell off the captain's chair, and so if there was only some way of knowing who we were, and they sort of like pan over to that. But I mean, I'm willing to give it a hand wave because
me too. That was.
Well, we've been yakking a lot, Keith. What are your thoughts?
Well,
have some moments that you really were excited by, or you really liked.
A lot of them have already been touched on. I loved Ortegas, how Ortegas remembered to fly the ship. I thought that was outstanding. I really enjoyed seeing the interactions between the landing party and especially Pike and M'Benga and the guy on the planet. And I spend my time watching this show, trying to think of what this show is about. What today's show was about. And it seems like it's how we feel is almost like the most important thing. Memories are important, but it's our feelings that guide us. It's our emotions that guide us. It's our emotions. It's who we are. And I just thought that was and I'm not sure because I only had a chance to see this episode once because of the way my life works, but that is my hot take on what the show is about and what the
I think
message
that's
of
an
the show
interesting
is.
point. I think you make a very valid point, Keith, actually, because that clearly is what helped them overcome the problem.
Right.
Because, I mean, when you think of all your...
Because Pike is wearing that medallion, and
Right.
the old man's like, what is that? It was given to me by somebody who I'm close to.
Yeah.
Somebody I have to apply, you know, like, and the idea that is like, it resonated with him on a deep emotional level,
Mhm.
even if he couldn't remember the details.
Right.
And, you know, as he says towards the end of the episode, because he finally confronts Zach, like it's him and Zach in the grand throne room, you know, shooting phaser rifles at each other, you know, and that was the scene where he like deflects some phaser bolts with a big tray, which was very cool.
Which on the one hand, yes, it was visually awesome. It was cool. Pike's a badass. But really, a shiny metal plasma can stop a phaser? Huh. Good to know.
Well, maybe they were set on stun.
Yeah.
I don't know. Zach didn't seem like a stun kind of guy to me.
Maybe not.
Well,
but
I don't know. I don't think he would have wanted to kill Pike.
Yeah, he kind of wanted because he resented the fuck out of Pike.
Yeah, they did have some sort of a connection of some sort, even if
he did say that he wanted to see him be one of the field workers. So
yeah.
But I just have to. But yeah, that was totally cool. The way Pike is just nonchalantly takes the platter, goes bang, and pops the phaser blast away.
What he's I want the casket with my memories, and he basically, because he's more of a badass than Zach, he's able to defeat him, and he finds this box full of like Starfleet gear. It's got like some medical kits, and it's got a tricorder, and it seems familiar to him. And Zach is sort of like laughing, and he says, "I want my memories back." His memories aren't in a box, and looks like Pike's about to be like, looks like he's about to kill him. Like, you know, the guy's like, no. I mean, and Zach folds, you know, faster than the Flash on laundry day. So, but it's that sort of moment where, you know, the radiation dissipates and he remembers who he is.
Right.
And he says, "Well, this planet changes you. I told you." Is no, it just makes you more of who you are. So we get to see sort of a dark side of Pike. You know, somebody robbed of the knowledge of who he is. He's still a leader and he's still compassionate, but there is this darkness in him. He's angry, as anybody would be when they're, you know, being, you know, fucked around with. So I thought that was an interesting observation, that it makes you more, it's sort of like, there's, you know, the idea like when you get drunk, you sort of like get to see the real person because their inhibitions come down. But the old man, they go back, they bring the old man inside, and he remembers his family, and he's like, "It's better. I had a son. He was a lot like you. Remind me of you," says to Pike. He says, "But thank you for giving me back those memories." And he says, "It's you know," and it was, I liked it. And the whole thing is obviously with Zach. He was like, what are you going to say? Well, this is, yeah, I'm sorry for leaving. And even in that moment, he still has compassion for Zach. He isn't like he's a complete hard ass. He's like, "I'm so sorry I left you here. I can't," you know, basically he has compassion for him.
Yeah.
He says,
but then he says, "But Starfleet will figure it out."
Yeah, Starfleet will, like everything else. He says, "But everything after that was on you." Yeah. And he, you know, and he's like, Starfleet will sort that out. So,
which makes me wonder why did they put the Starfleet symbol? It looked like the Starfleet symbol was grown into a
topiary.
A topiary, yeah.
Well, it's the same one that was on the box. It was on the lid of the
sure, but presumably Zach knows what that is. Presumably Zach knows what the likely outcome of that would be.
says Keith. He says, "I took it as my symbol. It was really stupid."
Yeah, I don't think he expected Starfleet to come back.
Yeah, under his robes and stuff, he pulls it aside, and he's still wearing his badge.
Yeah, and I think he was still wearing his tunic.
Yeah, I think so. Craig Lubin says the shiny metal plate phaser deflection scene was scientifically dubious at best, but oh so cool.
Yes. I'm with Craig on this. Yes,
I would agree. It's let's not again, like they say at the beginning of Mystery Science Theater, it's just a TV show. We should really just relax.
Yeah.
So World of Cool, I'm down for that.
Yeah, I know, Craig. All right. So Craig also says, to be that person, radiation induced brain damage is non-reversible and would most likely result in death. That being said, good plot device.
Yes. It was a very special kind of radiation. It doesn't kill you. It just doesn't, it's spacey. I don't know.
Space radiation. That's right. God damn it, we got a case of space radiation poisoning.
Yeah.
Listen, I mean, whenever I hear radiation, I'm like, oh, that's not good. But, it's just like a lot of Star Trek things. It's a buzzword to throw in there.
Yeah.
And
well, listen, as Stashwick said to us, the science fiction you back in.
Yeah.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, I can live with it.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Well, because if they hadn't been able to have it corrected, there'd be no more show. Because
that's true, and we need that
destroyed in the debris field, and the other guys would have just been idiots living on the planet,
making little ones out of big ones.
Yeah, and sawing wood. That was something I didn't get. Did somebody put the colors on them when they were sleeping?
No, I think that was just the clothes they were given based on the reports of what people wore on that planet, so they could blend in. They didn't know the significance of it.
That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. Yes, that makes sense. I missed that in my first go round. So this was a very good episode, and you know what one of the best things about it is?
What's that?
No time travel.
Yeah.
Well, there was time missing, so maybe that's a form of time travel.
There we go. Yeah.
Boom!
Not a form I object to, at least. Let's put it
All right.
Yeah.
The temporal management authority will be pleased to hear. So.
Yes.
My question is,
I would so take that job if they offered it to me.
Temporal
for scolding. You would just take it so you could scold people for time traveling.
That's damn right I would.
Yeah. I think you'd be good at that. My question is,
yes.
Had Pelia actually been in this episode, by her forgetting, would it have made her less of a wackadoo?
My suspicion is no.
No,
she was
I think it might have
accelerated
that. Well, it's usually in an episode like this, there's usually one person who's immune. Like Data might be immune, or Mr. Spock. There's usually somebody who escapes the effect and is trying to figure it out. But nobody escaped everybody got
that was interesting.
Yeah, that was
I think cool. That's what added to the creepiness of that scene with her Ortega.
Oh yeah,
always.
Yeah, it was.
There was no one. Yeah,
everybody, and she was genuinely freaking out. And she's normally like, she's like a cool customer. She never seems terribly rattled. She might make a snarky comment or two, but she always seems like she keeps her shit together. To watch her sort of freak out, she's like, I don't like this, and she's like in her quarters, sort of like freaking out. Very different.
I could remember what it was that she says, because when she finally comes back to the bridge and she takes her seat at the helm and she says, I remember this. There's some little Ortega funny quip that she makes, and I can't remember what it was, but
I'm gonna have to go back and see what it is.
Yeah. But it was one of her little snappy comments, and it was just great. What it did for me was like, okay, yeah, she's kind of back, because she's able to make that joke. What is it? Where are we here? Craig Lubin again. Keith Jacobson is in actuality a deep cover Federation temporal agent.
No, I'm not. But of course, if I were
that's
deep,
exactly what a temporal agent
exactly
would
what I'd
say.
say. That's right.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. The bus is actually a time machine.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
We're on to
you. You built a time machine out of a city bus?
Well, I didn't.
I'm just your best friend who's either 40 or 80.
Yeah.
To quote John Mulaney.
I just drive the damn thing. I can't fix it.
Yeah.
You're like the Doctor. You can't change the way the TARDIS looks.
Right. Exactly. All right, guys, we're coming close to the last 12 minutes of the episode. Anything else that we've missed? I had all kinds of pictures. I didn't show them very many. Let's see. Oh, maybe not that many. Here's the shot of them when they first get down to the planet. Hey, that reminds me of something. You know what? One of the things I thought was really cool, and I didn't notice it until Gina was watching the episode on her phone, and we were all sitting out on the porch, and I couldn't see the show. But the ringing noise actually was really annoying, but in a good way, I thought, because it was like that tinnitus noise, that sound effect that would come up, went right into your head. And it drew me right into the episode. It's like, wow, yeah, that really sucks.
Yeah, sound editing is one of the things that you sort of take for granted, because if you only notice it usually when it's terrible. When it's good, it just seamlessly works its way into the story. Right. Much like or music. Like there's a lot of things. If they're doing their job, you almost don't notice it, which is both the highest praise and probably frustrating. Because people will be like, "Oh, that was a great speech that actor gave," and they might not even acknowledge the writer. The actor tends to get most of the praise. Right. But I enjoyed this episode. I think
I saw a YouTube video once where someone was doing a breakdown. I think it was a horror movie scene. I don't remember for sure exactly, but they did it first with everything in, all the normal sound effects and the action. And then they showed it again with the music soundtrack on. And with the music track, it was so much creepier. So much.
Oh, yeah.
So much creepier with the music.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
now, I know there were also a couple of neat musical cues in this. And, of course, I had a crazy day today, so I didn't have a chance to jot everything down. But once again, just some neat stuff with the audio and the music, but it really was true that tinnitus sound brought me right into the story.
I like this episode a lot. I really do. It was a very good episode. I think I'm still going to say Ad Astra is my favorite episode this season so far. I think we all know what my least favorite episode so far of all Strange New Worlds is.
Yeah.
But this was a very good episode. I liked it. It was so, and you said it right at the very beginning, Chris. It is so classic Trek.
Yes,
right? It is. Well, let's talk a little bit. We talked about the sort of fight with Battelle and Pike.
Yes.
And at the end, there's apparently they cut her ship to transfer presumably Zach to be brought back to Starfleet headquarters for court martial. And she says, did you really have to divert 2 starships for a simple prisoner transfer? He says, well, I didn't. And he basically says, listen, I fucked up. I was an ass.
Yeah.
And she's like, can I get that in writing? And he's basically like, I don't deserve you and I'm sorry. And, I would really want to try to make this work, and I know it's difficult. And you're not sure if she's going to forgive him because it's not always it's not unlike I think like old shows where they'd be, she'd be like, oh, all right, she sort of keeps him dangling, just a little bit longer than you might expect. But she does kiss him. She said, well, let's see how the next half hour goes, and then we'll take it from there. Yeah. And that was nice because I do like her character, and I do like the fact that they have this relationship, and of course he does have a expiration date, but as Una says, even captains deserve to have some happiness in their lives.
Yeah,
Do
you think that Patel knows about his expiration date?
No. Because remember the very first episode, he's still kind of like, that's why he's like going all Grizzly Adams, in Montana. And, she's like, well, it's classified. Yeah. And she's like, kind of like giving him the side eye. But I like the fact that he didn't hold it against her, that she was prosecuting Una, like he knows that she was doing her job.
Yeah. I really thought he was going to hold it against her for a while there.
Yeah,
but I like the fact that I like that because he is a compassionate guy. Like he understands. He's not, I wouldn't say he doesn't hold a grudge, but I think it would take a lot to make Pike hold a grudge. I think he can see other people's point of view enough that he can understand why they do what they do, even if he doesn't.
You know what else I like, and I hope this doesn't come across as an insult because I don't mean it to be one, but the actress who plays that role is a very attractive woman, but she's not like Hollywood gorgeous knockout.
Well, and she's not that sort of, no, I mean, she did.
I like that she looks like a real person. Yeah, is my point.
She looks like a very pretty woman that you might meet.
Right.
She's also the lead in the Winona Earp show that was on Sci-Fi.
I didn't know that.
Which is one of those shows I wanted to check out, and I'm not had a chance yet. But just for fans of Captain Patel, if you want to see her do more stuff, she is the lead, titular lead of Winona Earp, sort of a horror, sort of fantasy, Western, modern show, where she's the descendant of Wyatt Earp, and she has one of his guns or two of his guns, and she fights monsters with some other people, apparently. Yeah. That's my impression of the show. So
hey, leave it to Craig to go there. It's okay for Captain Pike to have some joy before being exiled to the beep beep chair.
Yes. Listen, get as much joy as you can, because you're gonna be flipping through those memories in the beep beep chair. So. I enjoy this episode. I thought,
good episode.
For those of you who feel like Pike has not gotten as much to do, this is definitely a heavy Pike episode. We got to see more of Ortegas than we have. I still want more. I'm hoping that we get to know a little more about it. There's that clip from the trailer where they're going down in what looks like a very raggedy shuttlecraft, and she does the thing where she pulls out just at the last minute. Yeah. So I'm hoping. Yeah, I would like to know what her experience in the war was like, because we've gotten a little bit of that from the Doctor and Nurse Chapel.
Right, because she refers to it in that clip.
Yeah,
her time in the war. So yeah, well, clearly she's going to get her landing party.
Yes, obviously
piloting the shuttle. So,
and Chris, you might want to mute. You might want to mute your headphones for your sound for just a second, because I'm about to say something.
What?
I also want to see more Pelia.
Oh, well.
All right.
I would figure that.
I do. I like Pelia. I'm curious to see what they do with her.
Same here.
And Carol Kane is always a delight. Two-time Emmy Award-winning Carol Kane, and Oscar nominated. It's
it'll be interesting to see how she continues to recycle her character from Texas.
Be nice.
You're saying that like that's a bad thing.
I am curious if, I mean, again, because Carol Kane is sort of a name, like a very well-established and lauded actress. I'm
Yes.
not sure she'll be in the season after this.
No problem.
And I don't know if they've shot any of season 3 yet, because they were shooting.
Well,
they shot season 2 almost immediately after season 1.
Right.
So
and let me go guys. I'm just being a wise ass. I like Carol quite a bit. I'm just playing, but yeah. I don't expect her to. I kind of think this engineer slot. Somebody made the joke a couple weeks ago, but I might have been Craig or somebody. That it's kind of the professor
Defense Against the Dark Arts.
That was.
So I don't know, unless they all of a sudden decide to give us Scotty in season 3, then I think
I really hope they don't.
Might see the cycle through it with different engineers.
Yeah. I mean, I like the thought of them having a new engineer every season.
Wasn't there a moment in the episode where Pike's in the future and he hasn't died, and you hear Scotty over the intercom?
I think so. Yeah.
We don't see him. We hear a Scottish accent up Jeffrey's tube. Because that was the Balance of Terror. Scotty was on the Enterprise. He was chief engineer at the time. So I don't know. It's because Ortega's obviously was not in the original series. I don't know what if she's replaced by. It's funny because Sulu was in the cave. Was he not?
He wasn't. No, he wasn't.
He was not. He was in Where No Man Has Gone Before.
Yes, and he wasn't the helm. I don't think he was the helmsman. He was like a
he was a scientist. He was wearing a blue tunic in that. But it's funny. Obviously the Gary Mitchell thing has already happened,
right?
Because the events of the cage have happened. It's because I was like, oh, we're going to see Gary Mitchell. I'm like, no, he's dead.
Wait.
Gary Mitchell isn't from the cage.
Gary Mitchell's not from the cage. He's from the Gary Mitchell is from the
before.
Where No Man's Gone Before.
Right. Yeah. The Kirk.
Right. Not the cage, but he is dead at this point.
I don't think so. I don't think he's died yet because Mitchell dies. Mitchell dies while Kirk is in command of the Enterprise.
Right.
No. Kirk. Right. So he hasn't died yet because he's Kirk's buddy, not Pike's. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah. I forgot that. I know I'm conflating my captains, which is illegal in certain southern states.
Yes.
Damn you, Ron DeSanctimonious. That's Meatball Ron. Anyway.
Meatball Ron. There you go. What was I gonna say? Yeah, I thought it was really good. I really enjoyed it, and I'm hoping, we're going to get more of these classic Trek stories. I haven't seen the Ready Room yet, so I don't know.
They do show a preview for next week.
Yeah,
looks interesting.
Yeah,
that's all I'll say. And then next week will be 5. Then we'll be halfway through this season, which is. It's great because we'll have seen 5 really good episodes. I've enjoyed all of them. That also means that we're halfway through the second season. And that's always that's kind of like speed bump on my heart.
The show are so good, and I hate thinking that it's almost half over because these seasons go so quick.
Me too. And I hate to even talk about this, but what's next? Because
Lower Decks is next, but I'm not sure when that's. There's a Lower Decks book, like a Lower Decks handbook, which is sort of a coming out in October, which is one of these, I think sort of like the Jedi Guide, that they put out for Star Wars with like annotations in the margins by the characters. I think it's going to be something like that. So I don't know if they're timing that to come out at the same time. Paramount is very cagey about when stuff comes out. They unlike Disney, they don't tend to give like a schedule ahead of time.
Right.
They'll be like, they might say, hey, in 6 weeks, Stranger Worlds is coming out, and you're like, oh, okay, great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not sure what's coming out.
Do we know what next week's episode is going to be?
The title, I don't know.
Title, okay.
Yeah, I don't.
I'm sure it's online.
But
I think the episode I'm still looking forward to most is the Lower Decks crossover.
Yes, those old scientists, as it's called.
Those old scientists, right? So I really want to see those old scientists. What?
Is that what it's called?
Yeah,
those old scientists. That's what it's got. That's what the name of the episode is.
Because
those old scientists.
Is Commander Ransom referred to the TOS area? Those old scientists.
Right.
And I'm fairly confident that there will be an animated portion of the episode.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Before they get transported, like it might be a cold open with on the Cerritos, and then goes to, I don't know. That's pure speculation on my part.
Yeah, I
have no evidence.
Well, and I also think there's a crossover in Lower Decks too, isn't there?
Well, I think I started that rumor, but
I would love to see a crossover.
Yeah, I thought that they did both.
I seem to recall hearing that they said both, but I have yet to actually now that I've questioned it.
Then we could all be wrong, but yeah,
we could all be wrong. I want it to be true. I want it to be true.
I do. I want it to be true too. All right, guys. We're going to roll out of here. Live long and prosper. Have a wonderful week. We will look forward to seeing you again next week at the same bat time, same bat channel. And try to stay cool out there.
Yes.
It's sultry.
Yes.
So at any rate, I felt I needed my southern sultry attitude this week. So,
I do believe I have the vapors.
Yes, dab myself with a hanky, and yeah.
I'm effing hot.
All right, guys.